All right, guys, finally, 16 weeks later, it finally appears. Let's go ahead and haven't opened it up yet, so let's go ahead and get it opened up and see what we've got here. So first of all, this package is super light, so not promising, but what a process it's been. It's just been a nightmare getting an exhaust for the Panigale. Initially, I was going to go with, I had plans to go with the Terminoni, and that was a whole fiasco. And then I have plans to go with a MIV, but they stopped making it in titanium. I did not want a stainless exhaust, so there was that. And then finally landed on Austin Racing. Austin Racing, initially they had quoted me, in the middle of October, they had quoted me 6 to 14 weeks. And the gentleman that I spoke with had indicated that it would probably be quicker than 14 weeks because their backlog was coming down. That wasn't the case. I mean, it is what it is. You know, you buy a bespoke item like this, a handmade item like this, that's just kind of the way it goes. Can't really be too mad at it, but ended up taking about 16 weeks to get to my door. So I will say though, once the exhaust was fabricated, the shipping that they use, the UPS Express, even from the UK, I got the item quick. I think it probably only took about 4 or 5 days to get the item once they actually shipped it. But without further ado, here we go. And this thing is crazy light. I'll go ahead and weigh it later in the video, but this thing weighs absolutely nothing. Whoa. And that is a nice piece. Wow. Yeah, and online on the Austin Racing website, it talks about baffles and this and that, but it doesn't really give you any detail. It doesn't really tell you exactly how the baffles work on this system. And we could see what I'll do is later on I'll try to get some better video, but there is an actual baffle inside the exhaust here. So it's gonna be pretty loud, that's for sure. I'm guessing there might be a baffle. Just by the shape of it, there's probably some kind of baffle in here as well. But yeah, I mean, what a nice piece. So super nice, and it, again, I'll weigh it to be sure, but it can't be more than a couple pounds compared to the factory piece, which is 20 or something like that. So yeah, great. So I guess worth the wait. I had no qualms with Austin Racing. I mean, again, you're buying something handmade. They're doing the best they can. It's not like they're trying to not ship out exhaust systems. It's not like they're trying to do that. It's just that you know, they can only make so many with the staff that they have on hand. Every time I emailed them, they were looks like it comes with a servo eliminator as well. Yeah, it does. Every time I emailed them, they were really quick to respond, super nice. I tried not to bother them very often. Just because it takes them away from what they're trying to do. So yeah, I mean, it's a long wait, but at the same time, they do warn you prior to ordering that it's not something that's just being mass produced. It can't just be shipped overnight or anything like that. But anyways, yeah, it looks like it's got some pretty decent install instructions, and we'll go ahead and let's go ahead and weigh this exhaust and let's get to it. All right, let's go ahead and get this thing weighed. We've got our scale zeroed out. New exhaust, Austin Racing. Looks like we're at 3 pounds, 7 ounces. So pretty light. That's with the baffles in and everything. 3 pounds, 7 ounces. Old exhaust. So this is the factory exhaust with the exhaust servo and everything. This thing's a freaking monster. It's got to be over 20 pounds. Yep, so 21 pounds, just shy of 21 pounds, 7 ounces. So figure that's 18 pounds lost just from changing the exhaust and removing the servo. Pretty good weight savings, considering the difficulty of the modification and the price point. Already got the lower fairings off, got the stock exhaust off, servo, all that stuff. Don't really need to show you guys how to do that. There's a bunch of videos online showing you how, so no use being repetitive there. And first thing Austin Racing wants you to do, it looks like they want you to put this gold heat protectant shroud on the radiator cover, one of the drain tubes, and on part of the fairing. So looks like the material that they give you is pretty nice. I don't know if that's cut with a laser or something. Yeah, it looks like it is. But anyways, looks like what they're talking about is they want that heat wrap on this, and part of the fairing on this side of the bike. This lower radiator shroud, it could be a little bit tricky. I chose not to remove the whole thing. I think Austin Racing would prefer that you remove the whole thing, but I did not want to remove the wiring for, looks like, I'm not sure what that's for. It might be the wiring for the fan. Actually, it is the wiring for the fan. I didn't want to undo all the tie straps and stuff like that. I'd rather keep the OEM straps there. So what I did was I just loosened everything, and as you could see, was able to get our gold heat wrap in there. All you need is a T15 Torx and a 4mm Allen key. Really easy to take it apart. But yeah, I mean, it's self-explanatory. Just a little bit tricky in that if you don't want to remove the wiring, you're gonna have to spend a little bit more time to figure out how it goes together, but it is possible to get it on the way you're supposed to without removing the whole entire shroud. Okay, and there's the finished product with the radiator shroud back on. Obviously we see the heat wrap on this tube here, as well as the shroud. That wrap, it actually goes all the way up here as well, so that's why you need to loosen the whole thing if you're not gonna completely remove it. And Austin Racing wants just a little piece of, this silver was already here. It's this gold piece that they want you to add. I noticed the OEM heat shield, it kind of has a fiber in it, whereas the one included by Austin Racing, it doesn't. It's just gold and just a gold mat. Okay, so I was curious as to see what the inside of the pipe looks like. Tried to take the springs off, but I don't really have the proper tool for it, and the springs are super stiff, so I didn't want to risk damaging something or slipping and scratching it. So what I did is I actually stuck my endoscope down in the pipe so you can kind of see what it looks like in there. You can see it just kind of has straight through design with almost like a bullet muffler style packing in there. There's no DB killer or anything like that. Same thing on this end. You can kind of see how that is there. Same thing, just straight through design. All right, and this is going in through the tip side. And you can see just straight through. It has some packing in there, you can kind of see it, but not much. Kind of looks like a 90s like B2K video in there or something. But that is what it looks like inside without me taking it all apart. I'm sure most of you folks already know, but titanium, you definitely want to wipe the whole thing down before you install it. After it's installed, you want to wipe it down again. But the idea is when you wipe it down before you install it, you could get in all the little areas you may or may not be able to wipe well, or you may miss after it's installed. So yeah, just wipe it down with some alcohol. Stainless steel is kind of the same, but not as critical as titanium. But stainless steel also stains if you don't wipe it down and it gets heat cycled. Okay, so first mistake of this install, I put the radiator shroud all the way back together stupidly, and not realizing that this exhaust is all one piece. So in order to get it installed, so in order to get it past this point, the radiator shroud needs to be loose. I noticed on a lot of the other exhaust systems, it's multiple pieces, so you don't have to do that. But with the Austin Racing, all one piece, and yeah, make sure you don't do what I did, basically. And there it is installed, obviously without the lower fairings, but relatively simple install. However, there are a few areas that I think people could get hung up on. I know at least I did, and the instructions are not super clear about this. So first thing is, behind this rear set, see that bolt there? Okay, so that hanger, you are not going to use any type of rubber grommet or sleeve. The front mount, you are going to use a grommet and sleeve, which Austin Racing provides for you. So the confusing part is the factory exhaust in the rear actually uses a grommet and sleeve. So you would think that with the Austin Racing setup, you would also do that, but you do not. So front, set it up just like the stock one with the sleeve and grommet. The rear, do not use a rubber grommet or sleeve, just bolt the hanger directly to the bike. Now on this side, one thing that, it wasn't a major hang up for me, but it was kind of unclear. Okay, so in this area here, this is where the exhaust servo used to be. There is a housing that holds the exhaust servo. Okay, so that housing, it looks like this. And stock, it's mounted kind of like so, right? Obviously I can't show you 100% because the exhaust pipe, it's a much larger diameter now, so it doesn't fit anymore. But the instructions, it's not clear that you need to remove the housing also. So again, the housing looks like this, but the housing does need to be removed along with the actual exhaust servo. And this is the exhaust servo eliminator that comes with the Austin Racing kit. So this is just where I chose to mount it. There's pretty good length on the wire, so if you want to mount it in a different location, or if you think that there's somewhere that's better for it, I'm sure you could. This is just where I chose to mount it. Pro tip real quick, if you get a chance, get some flush cutters for your zip ties. So flush cutters will not leave that little tag on your zip ties. Right, so we could even see, oh yeah, see, so there's a factory zip tie here, came with the bike. You can see it's got this big tag on it. If you have a pair of flush cutters, these are the Crescent ones. These ones are decent. If you want some super nice ones, then the Knipex ones are gonna be best. But anyways, yeah, you can check out, right, now you don't have that. Now you don't have that tag on there anymore. So when you're working on your bike next time or whatever, you're not getting cut by the stupid tags from the zip ties. And that's what the Austin Racing slash cut exhaust looks like with the lower fairings off. So you can see, pretty cool. You can see the pie cuts on the on that little L-shaped bend there. You can see the pipe itself is much larger than the stock one. Again, as I mentioned earlier, the exhaust servo and the housing has to be removed because of the size of the pipe. And that's what this side looks like as well. So you could see why Austin Racing gives you those gold heat shields for that radiator shroud as well as that tube and the lower fairing. But anyways, yep, looks like we're ready for the first cold startup. Okay guys, and there you have it. So pretty quick install. Not a lot of work to lose almost 20 pounds, gain a bunch of power, so long as you are running some kind of tune for it. And man, it's a rowdy sound. It sounds pretty good, even though it's loud. Totally happy with the exhaust. I looked at all the options that are available for these bikes. I looked at options that were not necessarily available for these bikes, but could be adapted to the V2. So for example, the Terminoni D155, that was the exhaust that I originally wanted really bad. It's the ones with the carbon cans, and they have the front exit. They do make it for the prior generations of 959, 1299, etc. But the slip-on part, you would need to modify the white pipe for it to work on the V2. And I was prepared to do that. I had sourced a fabricator for titanium who could modify the white pipe to work on this bike. It just didn't work out working with Terminoni. It just didn't. But I'm super glad that I ended up with this. That first cold startup, I mean, the first thing it reminded me of was of a Trans Am car from the late 60s and early 70s. They had, small 302, small little 5-liter V8s in them, really high RPM. It sounded just like that. It almost sounded like a V8, which I really liked. It did not sound like a Harley or anything like that. And that's something that I really feared with this bike. I have heard the Aero exhaust for these in person, and I know the Aero is super popular, so I hope I don't offend anybody or anything like that. This is just my opinion, just one person's opinion. When I heard that Aero exhaust in person, I did not like that at all. It sounded way too much like a Harley. If you didn't see the bike when it was idling, you might mistake it for a Harley idle, which I wanted to avoid at all costs, basically. Once you rev the motor up with the Aero exhaust, it sounds a lot less like a Harley, just because the RPMs on these bikes, they climb so fast. It zings up to redline pretty quickly, so you lose that Harley-esque sound there. But at idle and real low RPM, I just didn't like it. And I know the Akrapovic is really popular for these as well. Haven't heard that in person, but I have heard the Van Diemen exhaust in person, which is basically a copy of the Akrapovic. Sounded better than the Aero for sure, I thought at least, but again, not really something that I was looking for as far as exhaust note goes. It kind of had a lazier exhaust sound to it, where this is a really raw, really aggressive sound. You could tell the motor tacks up really fast. So yeah, other than the weight, I'm super happy with this. I know that there's not a lot of videos on YouTube with this exhaust for these bikes, again, because basically everybody either has Aero or Akrapovic for these. And yeah, I made the right choice, at least for me. And I mean, it's definitely going to be the lightest option. I don't know if it's going to make the most power or whatever, but they're all going to be pretty close once you get it tuned. But yeah, I mean, as long as you can deal with the volume level, and you can deal with the weight, then I mean, this is a absolutely great option. So anyways, guys, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate you tuning in. Please like and subscribe, share this video if you think it might help somebody. And we'll see you guys next time. Thank you very much.